Welcome. Let's do a quick roundup of what's happening in Missouri politics. This was a busy week, so let's get started. HB 2704 is working its way to a floor vote in the Missouri House. Carried by Representative Ron Hicks, the Cannabis Freedom Act would fully legalize marijuana in the state. In fact, surprisingly still kinda relevant musician Afroman was there to lobby support for the bill.
We got Afroman in the House today. Not only the House, but he was literally in the Missouri House today, everybody. This isn't about stoners or something about this. This is about a community, a lifestyle, and a way of life for a lot of people. We can't ignore that in this state. We seem to give to everybody else. So it doesn't matter if you belong to the LGBTQ committee or communities or what. So why can't we embrace this one too?
This really feels like a college party where someone's dad walks in and is about to say something like, "You know, kids, I smoke the pot too." Well, the Missouri GOP is at it again. This time discussing HB 2649, a bill which would outlaw gender-affirming care for transgender folks under 18. I spent a lot of time on another bill restricting trans rights last week, but oh my God, we're back again. Fighting against this bill were therapists, specialists, trans kids and their parents, doctors from St. Louis Children's Hospital, the American Academy of Pediatrics, a rep for Missouri OBGYNs, and the American Medical Association. Who spoke in support? Two experts from outside of Missouri. Aaron Brewer, founder of Advocates Protecting Children, an organization opposed to gender-affirming care and in favor of conversion therapy for LGBT kids, and Laura Haynes, spokesperson for the International Federation for Therapeutic and Counseling Choice, a group that advocates for the treatment of gender dysphoria and homosexuality with conversion therapy.
Contrary to claims, gender medical interventions do not in the long run reduce higher rates of psychiatric conditions, suicide attempts, or completed suicides, according to rigorous follow-up studies of adolescents and our adults over decades covering 45 years in the Netherlands follow-up and a 30-year follow-up in Sweden. Sweden also now prioritizes psychotherapy. So Finland and Sweden are saying give them psychotherapy and don't do these things to their bodies.
We were just talking about that Swedish study. I mean, I've got in front of me an interview with the author of that Swedish study that is upset over it being mischaracterized.
I know, I understand.
By you, ma'am. Ma'am, I mean, I have to question credibility if the one study that you're relying so heavily on, the author of that study is saying this is not what it says. Who should I trust? You reading the study or the person that did the study? In Finland, you said they now don't allow under 25, did you say?
They recommend under 25. They think they should wait till 25.
They think they should wait. Okay, because I just did a little Googling myself, and it looks like what Finland's policy now says is that they recommend psychotherapy as a first line, and then they absolutely still allow hormone blocker or puberty blockers and hormone therapies until 18, and then they allow surgery after 18. Is that
extreme?
I just did a Google search is quickly becoming the most feared statement you can say to an anti-trans rights advocate. Now, despite the fact that medical experts, yes, even the last one, all agree that gender dysphoria is a clinical diagnosis, Nick Schroer, the kind of guy who gets angry if you suggest he had a liberal portion at dinner, can't help but make just the most super cool comparisons.
When I was little, I thought I would grow up to be Wolverine. And if I convinced my parents to put adamantium in my bones, which I think that's some made-up comic book thing, they would have been able to, under certain precedent, that they can sign off on any type of thing that I want to do as a child.
The key here is that the only point at which you are eligible to receive medical interventions is after you're in puberty. So by the time you have reached puberty, you've entered puberty, and you are still proclaiming a transgender identity, it is highly unlikely that that's going to change.
There was one case in particular that disturbed me. That was, I believe, is out of St. Charles County, involved minors and family members, basically grooming them, making the child believe that they were in love with this individual. Would you all be for or against allowing a relationship like that to occur if the guardian and the child believe that that was in the best interest of them in their upbringing.
A child to have a relationship
with a family member, with a guardian, a sexual relationship. If that child believed that that was in the best interest and what they wanted, and that
I mean, I think there's a lot of logic that would dictate that that would not be appropriate to explore.
I'm going to ask my toddler on this one. Hey, kiddo. What do you call it when you compare apples to a giant lying pile of garbage?
Watercolorings.
You're right. She's so smart. In the continued Republican effort to ban stuff that isn't a threat, the 1619 Project is in the crosshairs for an amendment offered by, oh look, the guy checking all the boxes for his upcoming Republican primary, Nick Schroer. Because in Missouri, removing statues built to honor the men who fought to keep slavery going is erasing history, but teaching kids about that slavery is criminal indoctrination. The amendment says that school teachings cannot identify any people or institutions as racist, biased, privileged, or oppressed. A person's identity cannot be tied to race, income, family origin, or sexual identity in lesson plans, and blame cannot be assigned to categories of people regardless of the actions of one person. So, if you know how to navigate teaching kids about the institution of slavery without identifying it as racist, or teaching Jim Crow laws without pointing out that they targeted one group of people based on their identity being tied to race, or know how to avoid assigning blame for the practice of slavery to the category of people known as white slave owners, I guess the Missouri Education Department is hiring. Finally, the GOP-led House passed an income tax break for all Missourians. Oh, sorry, my mistake. For some Missourians.
This is a bill that would essentially give state revenues back to those that paid state revenues into the state treasury. And we are in a situation where we have excess revenues in the state treasury. And to me, that means it's time to give some of those dollars back to those that paid it in.
I think that this is a deceptive and sneaky proposal. Just to say that we gave folks $500 back, when in reality, not many people will see that full $500 or $1,000.
Everyday Missourians don't have a lobbyist here. We're their lobbyists. We are their advocates. His political courage to say no to all these other programs so that we can give everyday Missourians some tax relief, I think is a phenomenal example of political courage, and I appreciate him for it. And even as he's taking these arrows on stepping up to take on this role to give everyday Missourians some tax relief, I appreciate that. I would say that's political courage.
We found all sorts of ways to take from those who have earned to give away to those who have not, in an effort to try to contrive an outcome. It's never gotten any better. You cannot have these kind of programs that want to just give away other people's money to make anything any better. It does not work. And this will go back to the citizens who need it the most, the folks who have actually earned it in a sensible way.
This is not about stimulus or recovery. This is about tax relief.
Republicans on the House Budget Committee are currently arguing against our proposals to make their 500 stimulus tax credits refundable. Their current version would mean that the wealthiest folks in our state would all get a check for $500. The middle third of folks would get a lesser amount, and the 30% of the population that makes the least would get zilch.
This bill and the process of this tax credit bill that we've been talking about, not just on this floor, but last week in budget, has been a hotmess.com.
I hear people saying they're going to go home to their constituents and say, hey, I just voted to give every Missourian $500 from the state coffers. This bill doesn't do that. I heard we're going to give it back to the people that need it the most, everyday Missourians. This bill doesn't do that. Unless you think the third of Missourians working low-wage jobs or on fixed incomes aren't everyday Missourians, maybe that's what you think. Maybe you actually think those people aren't everyday Missourians. We heard we're giving it to the people that don't have a lobbyist. Who do you think more likely has a lobbyist? The billionaire in Missouri that's going to get a $300 check? Or those working class folks or seniors that are going to get zero? The middle third of the population, I'd call those the most average, because that's what average means, Missourians. They're going to get less than that, somewhere between 0 and 387. And then those third that are working hard, keeping things running, or they're on fixed incomes dealing with, as the gentleman from St. Charles said, the cost of inflation and other rising costs hitting them the most. He said we're giving it to the people that need it the most. They're the ones not getting it. They're the ones not getting it. It's a lie. It's nice politics. It's a good soundbite. It's a lie.
Missouri taxpayers should get it back, and that they know what to do with it better than we do, Mr. Speaker. And so I ask for the body's support. And as we all know, Mr. Speaker, taxation is theft. And with that, I close.
Oh, yeah. Known bad boy of the House and guy who leads the committee that decides what to do with all that stolen cash, Cody Smith, got to have that drop the mic moment because debate was then immediately ended by Republican leadership. So, taxation is theft, huh? This video is already getting long, so I'm going to avoid digging in on why that's really silly and instead just focus on political courage. If Cody Smith and all of the reps that cheered him on when he said that had so much political courage, why haven't you zeroed out every line in the budget, like real men of conviction? Are you going to turn yourself in as budget chair for spending what you know in your heart to be stolen goods? Since I imagine you don't support theft, does that mean that you support defunding the police now? Or firefighters, veterans benefits, national defense, court systems, rural development, parks, roads? Or maybe taxation is theft only when it helps someone other than you or your political allies. Or maybe you're not disingenuous or cynical at all. What do I know? I'm just some guy with a tie. Bye for now.